It is a joy to be here. I thank you for this opportunity to come and preach to you a lesson from God's Word. If you would like, right now, turn to Hebrews chapter 12. That is where our lesson will come from this evening as we talk about this habitation that awaits us. A little bit about the author of this letter. Love Humphreys Jameson was born in Jefferson County in what was then the territory of Indiana on May 17, 1811. The son of Thomas Jameson, Thomas, his father, had moved from Virginia to Kentucky around the 1800s, and later then to Indiana territory in 1810 and early 11. Thomas's parents were members of the Calvinistic Kirk of Scotland, and his wife's parents held the views of the Church of England. But the family became Christians in 1816, with Love's father and mother being baptized by John Coolidge, a young associate of Barton Warren Stone. Love, whose education was attended only by his parents and being tutored by them, was baptized in the fall of 1826 during a protracted meeting with Beverly Valtar and the preacher of his first sermon within a year in December 25. Following which he began preaching the gospel regularly. From 1830 to 1834, Jameson taught school during the winter and made preaching trips in the summer. One of his mentors was Walter Scott, with whom he frequently traveled and worked, moving to southern Ohio in 1834. He, along with Scott, attended a famous debate of the 1837 between Alexander Campbell and Bishop Purcell at Cincinnati, Ohio. In addition, he wrote frequently for Campbell's paper, The Millennial Harbinger, in which Campbell spoke of him as the brother whose praise is known in all the churches in Indiana. After preaching at various churches in Hamilton County, Ohio, he married Elizabeth M. Clark. Also in the closing years of Barton W. Stone's life, he returned to Indiana as a local man, and following years, his wife passed away from an epileptic stroke. Soon after, he remarried to Elizabeth R. Robinson in 1842, moving to Indiana, which became his home residence for the rest of his life. In 1845, Jameson was asked, along with John O'Kane, to evangelize the southwest part of the state. Then, after 1854, he made regular preaching trips to Ohio, Kentucky, western Missouri, Illinois, New York, and even part of New England. There is a Habitation was penned around the time of 1860. In both words and original music by Jameson, but it was never achieved as a very highly popular song. Because of its slow, pondering melody, the song was, as we know it, was first published under the title, O Sion, Sion, in the New Christian Hymnals and Tune Books. Jameson is also known for penning the song Night with Evan Pendon, and he died 10 years after writing that song in May 1st, 1892. This man, Mr. Love, or Love Humphreys Jameson, wrote a song about our eternal home. And this home is a home that is only given to certain people. As we've looked at the history of his life, it is interesting that he is steeped in the beginning of the church in the United States. And I think it's very interesting even more to think about the two songs that I really enjoy that he had penned. But I always think about when I come to the congregations, and it always feels good to be home. It always feels good to come into a congregation of the Lord's church and feel like it's at home. Do you ever feel that way? We've done a lot of traveling over the last 5 years, and we've been in a lot of different congregations, and they always feel like home. A home is full of comfort, warmth, encouragement, and even friends and family. But from the beginning of creation, man had a home somewhere. God created man after he finished creating the heavens and the earth. And once that creation was done, he put man in a garden. He put him there to tend it, to take care of it. But it was the greatest home that man had ever known. And in fact, everything in creation was created for man. Now, how good of a God do we have that everything created is for the purpose of man to live and to take care of? He gave man dominion over everything that God had made. Unfortunately, sin comes into the world and separated man from his home in the garden. God takes it away, and so man continually seeks for a home. Now, most of our homes we build on our own, by our own hands, our own sweat. And God provides for us those materials to do so, but we are responsible for that. The song that we just sang speaks of a habitation, a home for mankind after death. And the lesson that we will look at this morning in Hebrews is that the Hebrew writer introduces this new covenant in chapter 8, and he starts comparing it to the old covenant, the old home that the Jews looked at, this Zion. And then there was Mount Zion, where Moses gives the 10 Commandments. But I want us to look at the lyrics, and then we will read the verses and then bring application out of those verses and our points this afternoon. If you would, go back to your songbook. I can't remember what number it was in your book. I have a different number in ours. I think it was 215? Okay, 2:15. And let's begin by looking at the verses. And it says, there's a habitation built by the living God for all and every nation who seeks that grand abode. Now pay attention to that word, because we're going to look at that later. A city with foundations firm as the eternal throne, nor war nor desolation shall ever move a stone. I think that when we think about those 2 verses alone, that's the kind of home I want to come home to. That's the kind of place that I want to live. I want to dwell for eternity. Verse 3, it says, no night is there, no sorrow, no death and no decay, no yesterday, no morrow, but one eternal day. There is no time in heaven. I think that's it's a concept we as humans can't understand. It's eternal. It's eternal light. In verse 4 it says, within its pearly portals, angelic armies sing with glorified immortals the praises of the King, its King. So as we look at this song and we think about the lyrics of it, I want us to go to Hebrews chapter 12, verses 18 through 24. And the Hebrew writer from 18 to 21 is going to make a contrast. He's going to compare this Mount Zion, where the Jews saw as being holy and wonderful, where the 10 Commandments would come from, the rules of God. And he will speak about how the people saw that mountain when Moses was up there. In verse 18 it says, for you have not come to a mountain that can be touched, and to be blazing fire, and to the darkness of gloom and whirlwinds, and to the blast of the trumpet, and to the sounds of words, which sounds are such that those who heard begged that no further words be spoken to them, for they could not bear the command. If ever a beast touched that mountain, it will be stoned. And so terrible was the sight that Moses said, I am full of fear and trembling. Now that is out of Exodus 19, where Moses goes up to the mountain, and God tells his people, after they've sinned against him, said, don't touch the mountain. Don't go toward it. But the Hebrew writer says, for you have not come to a mountain. In contrasting this mountain to Jesus Christ, he says, Jesus, there is no fear like there was the mountain, the fear of trembling because of the commands of God. But there was safety and love. And we'll look at that a little bit more. But as we continue into verse 22, but you have come to Mount Zion, and to the city of the living God, and the heavenly Jerusalem, and the myriads of angels. And you see where we get those verses